The word nature evokes many feelings. To some, it may paint a landscape with the strokes of fresh grass and serene beauty. To others, it can conjure the torrents of rain and mire that nourish that greenery. To others still, the word is a symbol of a grander spirit, the caring mother of the soil we inhabit. And to a few, the word holds a more combative meaning. Nature is beautiful and serene, but that serenity is just one side of the coin. For this mistress is more incapable of wrath, fury, and violence. And just like her, many of her children may eschew serenity for competition, calming drizzle for fiery ambition, gentle winds for gritted teeth. Life is a contradiction. The ultimate goal of all life is the continuation of its existence, self-preservation over and over. In service of that goal, living organisms form marvelous bonds, creative relationships of harmony, cooperation, and fellowship. For that very same goal, however, they also rip and tear asunder as the limits and pressures of life and earth pit them against each other. This contradiction weaves the wicked web that delicately supports the phenomenon of life. And while the contradiction breaks some, it empowers others. Yes, in the fiery mountains and desolate rock faces of our world lives one such contender, a creature willing to risk it all to win it all, an organism that knows both cooperation and competition, a brute of slime and rock. The Brachydios. 22 meters long and 7 meters tall, the Brachydios is an imposing brute wyvern that predominantly inhabits volcanic regions. In those barren lands, the beast prowls a large territory that it fiercely defends using its many weapons and its impenetrable shield of blue mineral shelling. Just like most of its brute wyvern brethren, the Brachydios' theropodium body plan allows for heavyweight charges and attacks. However, a feature that sets this wyvern apart is the arms. Generally, brute wyverns have quite pitiful arms, either useless or purely vestigial, or only used for mating purposes. The Brachydios, however, completely turns this convention on its head, as it has developed long and exceedingly muscular arms with long, sharp claws at the end. But that is not even the most bizarre part. Its hands are merged with a large, ram-like bony structure on top of them in such a way that the Brachydios can fold its fingers parallel to its forearm, completely hiding them and only leaving a giant blunt mass behind. This structure is called a pounder, and is also replicated on the beast's cranium in form of a horn. Using these rocky adaptations, the Brachydios christens their name by pounding its adversaries relentlessly with them. The bizarre nature of the pounders may leave an opponent over-focused on them, causing them to neglect the beast's deadly, mace-like tail and its incredible strength. It is not for naught that the Brachydios is called the Crushing Wyvern. However, the Brachydios' most interesting feature has, curiously, nothing to do with the wyvern itself directly. All over its body, but mostly concentrated around its pounders and horn, it is covered in a fungus called slime mold. Mold is the generic name given to all filamentous multicellular colonies of fungi, while the slime moniker describes the viscous, gooey texture the larger colonies exhibit. This slime mold is capable of immensely fast reproduction, but at a cost. The energy required for its millions of cell divisions creates heat and gas, which puts the mold into a state similar to that of glycerin, whereby it remains at risk of detonation through oxygenation or even just physical impact. Even worse, given time, these reactions add up to the point where the accumulation of heat and gas becomes visible on the mold, with its color going from green to yellow to red. And while the mold does benefit from exploding as it spreads the fungus spores into the air and allows long-distance proliferation, exploding continuously and randomly during any and all cell activity would be disadvantageous for any organism. To mitigate this disadvantage, the slime mold and the Brachydios partake in one of the most ancient and complex behaviors known to nature: symbiosis, the exchange of benefits through cooperation between two species. Which species started it is unknown, as it is for most symbiosis, but after what must have been a long period of parallel evolution, the Brachydios evolved to have its shell be coated with a binding agent. An agent that allows the slime mold to peacefully exist on the shell without having to worry about spontaneous ignition. In an act of what romantics could call immense trust, the mold gave up control over the actual timing and severity of its explosive procreation to the Brachydios, who developed a hormonal gland dedicated to commandeering this fungus's fate. When activated, that gland releases a hormone into the Brachydios' saliva and shell coating, which primes and activates the mold's cellular activity. During the Brachydios' movements and actions, the active mold detaches from its body and explodes in small piles, ensuring proliferation without endangering the entire fungus. This symbiosis may seem bizarre at first, but it grants both parties clear advantages. The mold completely circumvents its explosive unpredictability and ensures regular and safe long-distance procreation, as well as a self-protecting home base with little to fear in forms of threats. And the Brachydios can use the slime and the residues of its explosions as a way to mark its territory, a warning to any would-be trespassers. But more than that, the Brachydios gains access to a tremendously potent weapon: the slime mold's explosions themselves. An attacker might be fast, armored, heat-resistant, or cunning, but almost none possess the specific resistances to deal with a sticky, heated substance that explodes on their skin, not just shredding tissue and singeing fur, but sending deadly vibrations into the body, pairing very badly with sensitive, fleshy organs. What was the slime mold's biggest weakness becomes, through symbiosis, the Brachydios' strongest weapon. Now, every attack that would have been dangerous through the mass and force of the beast's pounders alone is turned into a meteor of death and fire, as the slime mold congregates on the beast's arms and turns its punches into flaming novas. Activated into a detonative state by the beast's saliva through licking, it becomes a key element to the Brachydios' arsenal. The Brachydios has even developed a specialized tongue tip to properly coat its pounders during this process. Moreover, and maybe more deadly, the Brachydios can now strategically lay traps and control the terrain around it by allowing the mold to drop off in its active state after each attack. Simultaneously, the Brachydios can spread weak amounts of both spores and its activating hormone through the air around it, allowing for slime to appear seemingly out of nowhere and explode immediately. This turns the Brachydios into a deadly opponent, as its already fierce temperament and territorial aggression is combined with an ability so destructive that even apex predators regularly see themselves retreating. Many fights, the Brachydios can just win through the use of brute force alone, with the slime mold only adding auxiliary explosions. However, should the Brachydios find itself cornered and stressed, the resulting flood in hormones, all including the slime mold activator within them, causes the mold all over its body to grow and increase rapidly, preparing itself for stronger and bigger explosions. In this state, the slime mold is primed to explode much quicker, and thus presents an even greater threat, as it now can explode almost instantly. However, the Brachydios is careful to regulate the use of this state and the explosions in general, as it is only resistant to explosions, not immune to explosions. However, this symbiosis has its most profound effect perhaps in the context of the Brachydios species and their longevity as a whole. A juvenile Brachydios is born with a soft, malleable shell and is then infected with the slime mold by its parents. That beginning phase of the symbiosis is dangerous, as the juvenile cannot easily control nor withstand the explosions, often leading to premature death. This raises the mortality rate of the young and in turn increases breeding competition behavior. If a female Brachydios is to bear a child, it must be as sure as possible that the genes it inherits from its father are as strong as possible in order to survive those crucial early years. Thus, the slime mold itself becomes a strong element of breeding behavior for the Brachydios, as the slime's visual variety allows for a sexual hierarchy. A Brachydios with a vibrant, healthy coat of mold can easily be identified as a suitable sexual mate, since it can obviously support and survive the activity of the mold, probably due to its superior genes. This communicates to would-be mates that its genes have a high chance of producing offspring with similar resistance to the mold's explosion, and thus a high chance of survival. It is this harsh competition that makes the Brachydios so aggressive and territorial, and also what causes maybe one of the most fascinating behaviors of this beast. Generally, the slime that falls off a Brachydios explodes shortly after and spread its spores, as intended. However, rarely, this process does not occur, as the slime doesn't manage to hit the heat, mass, and buildup required in time and the reaction subsides without detonation. In these cases, the slime in question seeps into the ground and becomes incubated within the earthly crust. Due to the high pressure conditions under the surface, the slime becomes focused and compressed, making it more resilient, explosive, and powerful. After countless years of building and building under the surface, volcanic and tectonic activity force it back out into the open, where it unveils its newfound power and gains a new name: the Flashpoint Slime. This powerful, darker slime mold can technically emerge anywhere, but has a particular abundancy in places where there is both much volcanic activity and many battles fought by Brachydios of the past. Thus, certain locations, like the Old World's Ingle Isle and the New World's Guiding Lands, become regular hotspots for Flashpoint activity. And these temples of fire and brimstone are of utmost importance to the Brachydios' race. As sexual competition rises, some male Brachydios become, through an as of yet unknown mechanism, instinctually aware of the existence of the Flashpoint Slime. They then embark on a pilgrimage of sorts to the aforementioned hotspots for one purpose: to bind themselves to the Flashpoint. The vibrant coloration and the immense firepower of this variant slime mold signifies a clear display of sexual dominance and all but guarantees breeding privileges. But this binding is not easily earned. As if the journey to the far-off depths of its emergence wasn't enough, the Flashpoint Slime's added power is no small burden. While an adult Brachydios' shell can usually withstand the normal slime's explosions, many of them succumb and die after having their armor ripped to shreds by the fiery fury of the Flashpoint. Only the strongest and largest individuals can survive the Flashpoint, and only they are granted the right to ascend into a new form: the Raging Brachydios. It is a misconception that the Flashpoint Slime makes a bound Brachydios bigger or stronger. Rather, it is only the biggest and strongest Brachydios that survive the binding, hence the size and power of this variant. This is the peak of the Brachydios race, an old, wise, and exceptionally powerful individual now bound to the most deadly and destructive slime mold in existence. The vibrant blue and purple shell of the regular Brachydios has been molded and shaped into the darker, indestructible ebon shell, capable of withstanding more heat and bombardment. And such bombardment is sure to come, as the Raging Brachydios fights with a newfound ferocity and strength that few can equal. Armed with new, more powerful and more instantaneous explosions, this variant has been granted the most precise and deadly control over blast and destruction seen in nature. Part of that is a very special hormonal gland. While in regular Brachydios it controlled the priming and long-distance activating of the mold via hormones and pheromones, the binding with the Flashpoint has mutated it into what scholars call an Immortal Reactor. This mysterious organ allows much more concentrated amounts of hormones and pheromones to be controlled more precisely over longer distance. It also apparently lengthens the beast's lifespan, although this is not yet confirmed. This means that a Raging Brachydios has no trouble activating slime that is several meters away from it, as well as activating the slime on its own body much more effectively. The powerful Flashpoint also adds to this, as it is much more active than its normal counterpart, growing and priming itself in regular intervals to the point where its own weight causes it to fall off the beasts in deadly chunks. A raging Brachydios is, as the name suggests, incredibly aggressive and always prepared to measure itself against its rivals. Its newfound position at the top of the sexual food chain bestows upon it an urgency to defend its title, so it will pound and pound and pound until its enemies are destroyed. But should, against all odds, an opponent prove too tough even for this, the raging Brachydios will initiate its final gambit. Upon being overwhelmed, the beast will seek out the deepest depths of its volcanic home, not as a retreat from its adversary, but an invitation to them. An invitation to a final showdown. Once there, the Brachydios will recklessly empty its Immortal Reactor into the surrounding air and begin pushing the Flashpoint Slime to its absolute limit. Gone will be the hard-earned dark green coloration of its ebon shell, replaced by the charred black of countless explosions covered in a billowing mass of steam and smoke. In this final assault, the Brachydios throws everything it has, everything it is, at its enemy, to the point where it endangers its own life. The force of continuous Flashpoint detonations is more than capable of pulverizing even its marvelous ebon shell if the fight lasts for too long. As an unmistakable acknowledgement of its opponent, the raging Brachydios shakes the earth with countless repeated fiery explosions. The thundering roar of a beast's wrathful struggle to endure. Flesh burns, stone melts, and the air distorts with the brimming heat of the raging Brachydios' immortal heart, which beckons for a fight that will inevitably destroy one of the lives involved. A brutal, final match to the death in the flaming embrace of Mother Earth. And thus, a species known for endless competition reveals its true dedication, willing to throw away everything for the chance of victory. Nature produces these tales as a reminder that the worlds and circumstances we consider stable and normal are by themselves just the equilibrium of countless forces clashing in unison. The Brachydios exists as a paradox, thriving under the harshest lifestyles possible, fighting to win and dying to fight. This majestic dance, which has continued for time immemorial, wields a rhythm so mesmerizing that all life, one way or another, feels it deep within its very heart. Thank you all so much for watching, and of course a big thank you to all of our patrons, including Archangel Everlasting, Daniel Garcia, Emerald, Fiction Ape, Ignis, Paracha, Sini, Victor Perez, Cesar Londono, Trader, Mr. Meander. Thank you all for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye bye.